Welcome to video 9. Today we're going to be looking at statistics exam questions. And we'll just do a few together and then you will do the rest in class. The first question says, which best describes a causal relationship? So in order to answer this question, you need to know what that vocab word means, causal. So if you'll remember from what we've learned in the past, the causal relationship is when one causes the other. So if we look, one variable takes place at the same time as another. If they're happening at the same time, one's definitely not causing the other one. So I don't think it's choice one. One variable is causing change in another. Well, there's our key word right there, causing. If it says in there that it's causing, that to me means that it is a causal relationship. So this is choice 2. I'm just going to keep going through them just to make sure that I didn't read something incorrectly or choose the wrong one. The next one says one variable has relationship with another. Relationship, remember, does not mean causal. One variable increases the probability of another occurring. Again, this just shows that there's a relationship, but it doesn't mean one is causing the other. We're going to jump down to question 3. Question 3 says the table displays data collected from a census. What is the linear correlation coefficient? So key word in here is what is the correlation coefficient between the years of education past 8th grade and average yearly salary in the United States to the nearest hundredth. So that means that I need to find the R value. Remember that that's what correlation coefficient is. So in order to do this, I'm going to plug my X values, which are the first ones listed, into L1 and my Y values into L2. And then I'm going to go to Stat, Calc, LinReg. And I guess there's one more keyword in there I should probably have highlighted. Linear correlation means that I'm looking for a lin reg. When I do the linear regression in my calculator and I look at the R value, I end up with this 0.9846 and so on. I write down the whole decimal just to make sure that I don't make any errors, and if I round incorrectly, I can see it on my screen, especially since these are all very close together. So it says to the nearest hundredth, so the hundredth place is an 8. Next to it is a 4, so that means that I'm not going to round up. I'm just going to leave it at the 0.98, so the answer is choice 3. Now we're going to skip down to question 6, which says, after performing analysis on a set of data, Jackie examined the scatter plot of the residual values. So it's important to note that these are residual plots for each analysis. Which scatter plot indicates the best linear fit for the data? So remember, what this does is take the line of best fit and stretches it to be a horizontal line. And then we can really see how far away the residual is and whether there's a pattern or not. So if I look at my first one, as I look through, I can see that it starts above, but then it really goes below and back up again. That's a pattern. It's not the same, a scattered pattern, the same amount above and below. There's definitely a pattern here. So I don't think that this is the best option. I can kind of see a pattern going on. This next one, I can see even more so, and we can draw these in if it helps. We just are noting that we see a pattern. So if we look at this first one, again, it kind of came down and back up. This one is a U shape, but it's important to note here that we cannot say anything about what would have been a better fit. All we can say is that the line was not a good fit. And then the same idea here, this is kind of going up and back down, so there's a pattern there. So I think the best choice is 4 because there's not really a pattern. There's the same amount above and below. It's scattered all around. So that's the best option. We'll do one more together. A statistics class surveyed some students during one lunch period to obtain opinions about TV programming preferences. The results of the survey are summarized in the table. Based on the sample, predict how many of the school's 351 males would prefer comedy. And then we need to justify, which means that we need to have math to back up our answer. So in order to predict this, I'm going to look at my table and see how many males preferred comedy. Males that preferred comedy, if I look at the table, is 70. But it's 70 out of what? Well, we know that we're predicting, so we probably want to see a percent. So I'm going to look at part divided by whole. So it is 70, but how many is it out of? Well, the survey only included 70 plus 35, which would be 105 males. So I can say that 70 out of the 105 surveyed preferred comedy. So that means that 0.6 repeating, which is 2/3, preferred comedy. So that means that I can make the guess or prediction that of the 351 males, 2/3 will prefer comedy based on my study. So I'm going to now do 2/3 of 351, which then gives me the answer of 234. I would predict 234 the males would prefer comedy. Okay, we'll continue these in class. Have a good night.